It's such a good intro. Like I could be in the worst mood ever and hear that, and I'm like, I'm no longer in a bad mood.
That's gifts, baby.
Everything is great. What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Long time.
I've been super busy with a bunch of other stuff that's not like work, like personal stuff.
Yeah, man. Tell me about it. I'm looking for a rig to go camping this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Trying to disconnect DC from life.
I don't do that kind of camping, bro. I do.
You do glamping or car camping, where you're at a like you're not really away from convenience, you're just like surface level away from convenience. You're around some trees.
Yeah, I don't have a roof. That's it. That's the only thing. That's the only thing missing. Right? Like I'm not doing that. Last time I got a tick.
Whoa.
My dog had a tick. Yeah, I know, right? Ticks are not cool, and I had one.
I had a lot of ticks.
Really?
Yeah, I've had a lot of ticks.
Had one near your bowels.
Yeah.
That happened to me. Yeah.
And I used to go to my grandparents in Georgia. Finding that was scary.
I started questioning my decisions. I was doing there was like a whole history of sexual activity, like a decade's worth, because I didn't know what it was at first. I was like, what's going on here? And then finally I had to just get into a very contorted position and figure out what the hell was going on. I was like, oh my God, no way. And then I took the tweezers and took care of it, but it was bad. Anyways, welcome to the Bitcoin podcast, everybody. Listen to the show. I'm the first host that talks first, D.
I am the second host, Dr. Corey Petty.
And I'm the third host, Jesse Broke.
Oh, shit. Corey's bringing in the bass this week. Did you hear that?
Am I?
No, Jesse is. He was like, I said he's bringing in the bass. Jesse's bringing in the bass.
Yeah, the microphone's off a little further away than I normally have it because we're going to do an unboxing today.
Wow. I told Jesse he had a groupie before the show, and now he's putting some bass in his voice, getting ready, trying to make the
voice modulation,
trying to make the groupies happy.
It's also the group plus Lattice 1. So if you're looking at the text at the bottom right, that's Lattice 1, not Lattice L.
Yeah, so
we'll fix that sometime during the day.
We're about to do an unboxing, probably the best unboxing you'll ever see in your life. It's on par up there with that one unboxer guy.
Remember when I did an unboxing of the Pine phone? Yeah, I have a Pine phone. Mm-hmm. I think I don't know if that was a part of the podcast. I just did it because I have one. Mm-hmm. I've never used it.
Did you ever use it afterward?
No, it's not that good.
Oh, okay.
I tried it. It was annoying. I stopped. But yeah, I got so we can just moving on.
Yeah, man. Take it away. Here's an unboxing presented by the Bitcoin podcast.
Yeah. You're basically going to watch me unbox this thing and talk about it. And then we'll move over to the round table after that.
Mm-hmm.
And you. And you.
All right. Live.
Here we go. No, not you. You.
You can put me up there.
Stop it. Okay, Alicia, you do it. I'll let the producer do what she's supposed to do. Yeah, so I got it right here in front of me. Grid Plus Lattice 1 and some safeguards. For those that don't know, the Grid Plus or the Lattice 1 is a hardware security module. So basically it's a hardware wallet on crack. This we're just going to get into, we'll go over kind of what it is, and then I'll start unboxing it. So this is like these are little Java cards. Here's a bunch of Java cards that I have here because Status makes the key card, which is a very similar implementation. In fact, they got the basis of how they do their safeguards from our open source code for the key cards. So they operate a very similar thing. So these are where your keys are stored more often than not and backed up, which will then plug into this thing. And this has a big old display and a bunch of security features. So I think it's best if we just start off with
I love this.
Not unboxing it, but maybe going through this part. So you see it here. We just kind of go through.
That is big.
We're looking at the future, Jesse. This shit's
man.
awesome.
This
I
looks
love it.
like laptops or like car phones back in like the 80s.
Car phones. Oh.
Oh yeah.
It's Lattice safeguards. Let's go to the Lattice.
Is it really that big?
And this is a pocket knife.
Okay.
You didn't say that right. Knife.
Knife. This is a knife.
This is a knife.
So, it's decent. We'll see it. We'll see it with my hands. I got small hands, so it'll look jack.
Put a banana. I can't tell without a
I don't
banana.
have a banana. Here we go. Here's a Ledger. Here's a Ledger Nano X for scale.
Okay.
There we go. Just
There
keep
you go.
adding
Keep
things.
it in crypto. I got all kinds of hardware wallet scenarios here.
I'm getting the scale. It's starting to just actualize in my hands.
All right. So looking at this thing, so you plug it in, see the safe card on the right here.
Wow.
$350 for this whole thing. Why? Because it's probably the most secure method for storing your crypto and still having a reasonable amount of access to it.
This is just for one. Oh, you just slide in your card that is.
Yeah, so like you can have,
identity.
like, it's easy to have multiple accounts because the keys and the signing actually happens on the card. This is a hardware security module to make sure that the transaction formation and what you're signing is what it's supposed to be, amongst a bunch of other things. So let's see here.
So who's the target audience for this? Not typically a consumer, like one consumer, right? It's like
I
probably
think
multiple people.
I think what Grid Plus is trying to do here, and I think I'm going to have them on hashing it out again to discuss this, because Grid Plus initially started off as energy storage, like basically like an energy solution, and this in the Lattice one was supposed to be basically your home node. It was your agent for your home, which managed all of your accounts and the software associated with those accounts, and potentially even ran nodes. So it has some processing on it. Let's get to the specs of this thing. So it's got a big touch panel, 5-inch touch panel, multi-point. It's a 5-inch TFT with security mesh. So like I'm going to go into like at a later date, I'm going to be
Crack it open.
cracking it open, talking about these different security features, what they're supposed to do, so on and so forth. This is just me opening up and looking at it and playing with it. Card slots, obviously. So it's basically like a really, really secure card reader.
I see a mode in their language, their verbiage: secure, internal secure computing.
That's the whole point, right? It's supposed to be a really, really, really secure hardware security module, so that like the transactions and keys never touch anything that can compromise. You can try to crack this thing open. It's got a security mesh which basically keeps it from turning on if it feels as though it's been compromised and stuff like that. So that's what this detection mesh is here. It's got a security enclave. So like most things have a trusted execution environment, or like basically a secure element on the device. Your phone has one. These cards and all like credit cards actually have one. Like there's a secure element on these things, which has a certain level of like standardization on what it can and can't do, or what it protects you from. So like those are actually standards which you get audited. And so when these things say they're like EAL or CC EAL 5+ or 6+, that's an actual like security standard that these secure elements run by. Like that all standardized like credit cards, debit cards, Java cards, all those things have to hit in order to get that certification.
So what happens if you lose all your cards?
I don't know. We should have multiple.
I don't know, man. It's if the key's on the card, then the no, that's not true. You probably put the key on the card somewhere. You're storing the key. Like the card is just a physical access point, is what I'm thinking. So I don't know, Corey. You guys made the cards. If you lose that card, you don't lose your crypto, right? You just lose that card.
You always have the seed phrase, right? That's kind of like whenever you make these cards, whenever you like. So what happens with, at least the way Keycard does it, I'm imagining it's a similar situation for this, because it's all based on the same account modeling for Ethereum and other nodes, or like most of the crypto, right? Which means that you derive some entropy that corresponds to a seed phrase, which you back up. That's completely outside of the entire system. And you keep that really, really safe. In the event that all this stuff fails, you lose your cards, this thing breaks, whatever, you still have your seed phrase. You can get everything back. That's why the seed phrase is so important, because regardless of how secure the security module is and how you access stuff or whatever hardware wall you're using, for seed phrase it's stolen, it's your shit out of luck.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of extra things, firmware, and these safeguards are basically what holds the keys.
So if somebody jacks your card, there's no
These things
like.
are if they jack your card, these things have. I'm not exactly sure the implementation of Grid Plus. I'll get into that later. But the cards are also secured with like a puck and a pin, so they're additionally encrypted for like multi-factor authentication. So it's not like someone gets your card, they plug it in, they have all your secrets, right?
Okay.
That's not how it works. So let's move over back to this. Let me make you the focal.
What are you trying to do?
I want to make the unboxing the large part. There you go. Cool. All right, let's open this bitch up.
Oh, there's no sound.
By the way, audience, I'd like for you to observe just how Texan Corey is by always having a pocket knife on him at all times.
I got an angle here. On the front, there's a quote from Voltaire that says, I can get that up there.
I don't know. It's tough to
like
see.
this camera sucks. We'll have to buy another camera. It says paper money eventually returns to its intrinsic value, 0.
Ooh, deep coming from old Lattice.
This is like good build quality for like boxing stuff. This is a solid box.
I like that they chose triangles.
Heavy.
Nature's most stable shape.
Yeah, so it's not actually that big, right? So like here's that same pocket knife next to it, right? It's a triangular plus. Got a Ethernet and power port on the back. So basically this thing connects to your network.
What is all that extra
cards?
Like plastic? Like why didn't they do like a kickstand for it?
Extra plastic? I'd imagine like if you look at back to the thing here.
Is it heavy?
Yeah, I'd say it's.
So there's some juice running. There's some power running through there. Some computation going on in there.
Well, it's like going back up to here. Sorry, wrong window.
Under the specs, does it have like weight and what's inside?
Should the specs are somewhere.
Features
like,
and there it is.
All these different parts put together, right? And the rest of it is just like probably.
You see how much plastic there is in the back?
Sits, right? Well, I guess they made it such that it sits on itself. And this isn't bad. Like, what would you like? How small do you want it to be? This is supposed to be basically sit on a desk.
I don't know, like a Kindle with a kickstand.
A Kindle?
Yeah, it should be like. It looks like all the components are flat, right? And so they just have like that huge chunk of plastic that's like extruded out, so you can like have it at a 45-degree angle.
Well, maybe I'll break it open one day.
Yeah,
and we'll figure.
Don't do that. Why would you want to do that? It's hardware. It's safe. Why you don't break it?
To see if I can break it. That's the whole point. Well, they sent it to me because they want to see if I can break it or like make sure it works the way it's supposed to, right? So I figured why not just do an unboxing video before trying to do that. Back that, make you big. Make you big. At least you do that again. Back to this. This bad boy open. Cardboard that goes away. In the back here, you have the first Grid Plus card. So I guess I have 1 plus 2 cards here. Still got it. So this is section for notes. You can't read that. Maybe on here. This one.
Still can't read it, but
we'll figure that out later. You got notes, serial, V1 on the card. These things should be NFC compatible. I'm not sure if they use the same cards. Like our key cards are NFC. I don't see the little the same icon on these, but that's more like white labeling on how you do this. Like that little Wi-Fi thing means it has NFC, which means you can like tap your phone or tap a terminal to communicate with things. Otherwise, the secure element right here is where it interfaces inside the Grid Plus. I'll show you here in a bit. Unbox the rest of this thing. So safeguard says backup, restore, and pay. There. Not just come out. In the back of this thing, it says backup the account on your Lattice using a safeguard, right? So you can basically have backups of your account, your last one. Restore an account from a safeguard to your Lattice, or pay, make transactions directly from your safeguard using any Lattice. So that means that there is an account on the actual machine. Oh, this thing comes out too, guys. Seems to be there's an account on the machine, and you can use these cards to either back up your account in case your machine breaks or gets stolen or something, or you can use these cards and use them on someone else's Lattice to then basically use their HSM with your accounts safely, right? So it's a pretty safe way of using someone else's hardware. Say if I wanted to make a payment at your house, if I didn't really trust your computer and you have one of these, I don't have to care about your computer. And backing things up with these things is really good. I'm not sure of the lifetime of storage for Java cards. I'll have to look into that in terms of like how it compares to things like volatile memory, like flash, like USB sticks or CD-ROM or hard disks, right? Those have a certain shelf life on how long they keep the information intact just by sitting.
Mm-hmm.
And so like things like flash drives have a pretty small shelf life. So if you're storing all your keys on a USB stick, there's a chance that like 10, 15 years down the road, that thing isn't there anymore because it's corrupted based on sitting, like bit rot, right? I think Java cards have a longer shelf life than at least like USB sticks. Now, these things, which you can also buy, are additional safeguards. Pop these open. Good perforated mesh here to see if it's been tampered with. Important to note, I guess, create or back up an account by inserting your safeguard into Grid Plus Lattice 1. Be prompted to set up a PIN for the card before it can be used. Do not forget this PIN. It cannot be removed. So these things are basically set with a PIN during manufacturing, and you need to remember that. Distinguish cards from one another by writing a name on the back in the allocated area. So that's what this like. In the back of this thing, it says notes. It's basically saying like this card is this account. I think with a later date, we're going to go through all these things and start playing with them. So inside the box here, move this around. You have your standard Ethernet cable, or like patch cable. RJ45 things. Looks like a 4-footer, if I had to guess. And just a standard made in China AC adapter, which plugs into the back of this thing. So you have 2 plugs, power, Ethernet, and then here. So this would sit at your desk, and the way you would interact with these things, I think you have like they have a forked version of MetaMask, which connects to this thing on your internal network. And then you can basically like when you're on a website and you want to do something, you would use the forked version of MetaMask, the Grid Plus version, and then it would send a signal to this thing, and you can confirm it, just like you would do for like your ledger if it's connected via USB. That's what I'm assuming. I'm not sure yet.
So they're basically trying to compete with like hardware wallets, point blank period. They're trying to be.
Well, it's the best. It's probably one of the best case scenarios for like a very high security hardware wallet. And these things also have the ability to communicate with you. Like they have an additional like messaging layer. So these things have certificates built into them, so they can make basically an encrypted messaging network just amongst all lattices. And I think they're looking to leverage that as well.
Encrypted messaging network, so like iMessage for Lattice Plus.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, or sending transactions, paying for things like that. So, like,
is this like a point of sale, like that's their hidden play here? Like, it's not only like they're gonna be like, oh, it's not only a hardware wallet, you can also use this if you're a merchant.
I'm curious to see like what type of storage this thing has on it, and the processing power to see like what applications could be put. Because don't remember, this thing was spec'd out to be. Oh no, you can't fake the card, Alicia. Alicia asked if you could fake the card. Like
64 gigabytes of storage.
Hotel room keys are just a magnetic strip. They don't have the secure element. So the secure element, this little like part here that connects, and you insert your thing. This is actually a miniature computer with like protected memory and computation and stuff like that only can do a very specific amount of things and nothing else. Unlike like a hotel room key, or at least the ones that you're most likely, is just a magnetic strip which has a specific code on it that can be faked. But like these have keys on them and an untamperable way of storing them, so that if someone tried to access it, it'll just kill itself.
Interesting. I mean, I think it's kind of dope. I think, I mean, I'm a big believer that like it's gonna take some sort of physical change, some physical way people interact with crypto in order to make it go mainstream, right? And the only reason I say that, and I've continued to say it over the years, is that it does take a physical change in order to change society. Like, for example, we were running through paper, and then all of a sudden someone invents checks. So now all of a sudden you have physical behaviors that are changing with making a transaction. You've got someone taking out a checkbook, opening a checkbook, marking the debit, writing the check, right? That's a entire physical process. And then later along the line, credit cards come. First, it starts with those huge fucking those huge carbon sliding machines. But now you've got a new physical process. Okay, no longer am I opening my wallet to take out dollar bills or opening my checkbook to take out a check. I'm now opening my wallet and taking out a card and giving it to someone. And now we're changing that physical behavior because I'm taking out a card and tapping it on a screen, or taking out a card and tapping it on someone's phone. Right. So in order for crypto to take hold as money and not, all of these other thousands of fun things we're creating, there's got to be a physical change. Right. And this is kind of touching on that. I don't know. I could see a world where like every house has a terminal, and that's your crypto vault, and you do things in and out of that terminal whenever you're interacting with crypto. Maybe that's going to be, maybe it's not. But if there's no physical behavior change, then it's going to be hard for this stuff to take off as money, in my opinion. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks cool as shit. I think all the plastic, Jesse, might be to, like, I don't know, airflow to keep it cool.
It's got some weight to it. I mean,
there's 64 gigs of.
No, I would imagine this like extruded part here from like here on.
Yeah.
Because like this is all components up to this digit, right?
Up till there.
Everything out here
is extra plastic.
Feels empty.
Yeah.
Like all the weight is definitely front loaded here. And this might just be an easy way, like a cheap way to make it look pretty sexy while it's letting it sit, right? Because like two little cables are going to come out of the back of this thing. It's your power and your Ethernet, and that's all you see, right?
Why didn't they do wireless instead of like
Ethernet? Wireless can be tampered with.
Okay.
I think wireless is more tamperable than this.
Get all hacky with that Wi-Fi.
Also, it requires more. I mean, it has Wi-Fi built into it. It's
Okay.
I'm gonna dig in later to like
Elise says
security
that
features of these things.
can
The
you
main point
mount
of this is like this screen here is part of the hardware security module, right? So like what you see on this is generated from the Lattice 1 and can't be faked by anything. There's no, so like right now, for instance, with the key cards, right? So like status, the key cards we have, these things rely on you using a piece of software that isn't going to lie to you. So the status application is one of them. But you got to make sure you're not getting like a rogue version of the status application. You have to install that correctly to make sure that whenever it's presenting like a transaction request that's for you to sign, that isn't being falsified. Because when you look at like with something like this, it doesn't have a screen on it. Like a lot of the like Ledger and things like that, they have a screen on it, so it can say like, is this amount all right? Is this the correct address? So on and so forth. Whereas like if you can craft a transaction, present it to me on some rogue screen, and I say, yeah, that looks right, and then actually send a different transaction to be signed, you can steal all my money. And so like understanding that the software that's crafting a transaction and presenting it to you to confirm has to be secure too. And it's kind of hard to do that, or at least show any relevant amount of information, especially when it deals with contracts, smart contracts, on like a Ledger screen. And the Ledger Blue is discontinued, you can't use that anymore, and it sucks anyway.
Did you know what is it? Is it Square? They're coming out with their own hardware wallet. Do you know what?
It's the most convenient way to safely store crypto. Of any like if you have any amount that's
you mean the Java card
special to you, no, like a hardware wallet.
Oh, okay.
A hardware wallet. Now there's multiple implementations of hardware wallets. I'm actually building like a workshop for Status that's like an educational on like hardware wallet best security practices, how it all works, and I'll pump that out on the podcast too. But like it's mainly like this is how hardware wallets work, and these are the things you need to look out for. And here's some standard best practices of like how to not shoot yourself in the foot. Because there's a bunch of different ones, and they all have kind of different consequences on like the things you should look out for, whether it be like a Java card that's cheap and commoditizable, so you feel better about like the supply chain, but it doesn't have any screen on it, so it's really hard. You can't confirm on the hardware itself that what you're signing is what was sent to it, what you thought was sent to it. Right, so you rely on the status application or whatever application that uses key cards to do that correctly.
What's the difference between like having like just like a USB hardware wallet and that?
And what this?
And that, yeah.
So with the USB hardware wallet, you're using USB, which isn't that big of a deal, but it's kind of annoying.
But I don't have to carry around this big block with me.
No, you're not carrying this thing around.
Yeah.
Like you never carry like this is for your home. This is for like a safe location that it shouldn't leave. So like your home desktop, somewhere like if you look at all the pictures they have, it's like sitting on a desk where you do your work. And so that'll be paired with like, I don't know, your laptop or some screen or something and eventually if this thing becomes like your household node, then whenever you sign a transaction, it pops up for confirmation on this, regardless of whatever device you're like doing stuff on. It sends the transaction request on your local area network to this thing, and then you can make sure that what you're doing is correct because you can't falsify the information on the screen.
So it's to display information on a secure device that you know is secure, or you're trusting is more secure than your own
you're
browser.
You're trusting that the way that they manufacture this thing, it can't be tampered with. And so you're trusting the information that they provide you, and then it does a lot of the cryptographic activity because these things have incredibly limited computational power. They can sign transactions. They can do some key functions like ECDSA key functions. They can derive keys, things like that. But like the amount of storage on these and computational power is severely limited. And compared to this, like the experience is going to be much better. It's like, and when I power it on, get through the process and like go through it in a separate call, we'll see it. We'll try it out. We'll like play with some DApps or something, and we'll see like on a screen me trying to make a transaction somewhere and then it popping up here, me confirming it and then it going through. Just like you would do for like a ledger, but like ledgers are kind of cumbersome. Every time I use one, I get pissed off. Like ask the Slack. Because I tell them every time I use my ledger. I get pissed off because the experience of plugging it in, making sure it works properly, getting it to sync with MetaMask or whatever application I'm using to access it, Ledger Live, updating the firmware, whatever, it's always a pain in the ass. It's never plug it in, confirm, walk away. This at least feels like it's going to move to that in the environment you're comfortable doing these things in. And so like if you're dealing with a lot of money, you should probably be a little more worried about your security and the devices you're used to like confirm the transaction that you're signing is the right one.
I guess the only thing I say is I feel like Ledger has to do those things because of just the architecture of working in crypto, working with crypto. So how is Grid Plus going to overcome? Like they have firmware updates because there was some sort of security bug, or that firmware updates.
Have firmware updates too.
Or like for example, most recently the Avalanche plugin on my ledger or someone's ledger that I was working with needed an update. So I couldn't get access to his Avalanche via the ledger without doing that update in the Avalanche plugin. And that was a whole nother process. Right. So it's like, I feel like so long as there's no standards in crypto, there's always going to be clunky user experience.
What do you mean no standards? There are standards. There's a lot of standards. Like the only reason that like this card can work on other things.
Well, what I mean by that is, why do I need?
I don't think he means the word standards.
Maybe I don't mean the word standards, but I need an Avalanche plugin. I need a Litecoin plugin. I need a Bitcoin plugin.
Okay. So what that is there's a few things there. Actually, what other key feature about this hardware wallet is that it's developer extensible. What that means is that a developer for a specific network can create an extension to this platform to allow it to access their network, or like do the right type of key derivation. So like with the BIP39, I think BIP39.
Yeah, I always had to.
Deterministic. So like HD wallets allow you to specify a given path down like the key derivation function. Mm-hmm. So like we can talk about maybe keys at a different time, but like every single network or application or use case has a specific path. That's a standard. So like Bitcoin is like, I think it's 4460, or that's Ethereum. So M4460 is
that's Ethereum.
It's Ethereum. Bitcoin's a different one. So like all of the different networks, testnets, applications, like we have like Status has made a couple EIPs specific towards non-value related keys. So like there's a whole path that we've tried to create. We've made an EIP that says like anything on this path is non-value. So like we use it for like the identity and status. Mm-hmm. And so when a developer is making an extension, so like the plugin or application for Ledger or this thing, what they're doing is they're telling firmware what paths are used in this particular network, and once you have those keys, how to generate addresses. Right? It's like what's a valid transaction look like for this particular network? How do you generate an address from the key pair that you generate on these things? And what's the API for connecting to the network? So like, what does it mean to send an RPC call to a given network or node somewhere?
Isn't that what a Ledger app does though?
Yes, that's what it means. Like that's what it means when you add one of these things, you're providing a lot of that metadata around that network or use case, so that the software that's crafting transactions and sending them to your hardware wallet to sign knows how to do that and then where to send it once it's signed.
Yeah, I think D is trying to ask like what's to ensure, or like what makes it so that you're not going to have the same firmware and app upgrade problems with that Lattice 1 that you do with a ledger?
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Haven't used it yet. I would say I think it's so. This is its own device in your network, right? This isn't connecting directly to your computer. It's connecting to your local area network. That means that you basically ping it like you would a computer in your house. So instead of and that means that there's no variation in how this thing is set up. Whereas with a USB, the interface, how you interface the USB is heavily dependent upon your system configuration, the drivers you have, the operating system you're using, whether or not you're going through multiple USB extenders or hubs, and the power of those things, whether it's getting the right kind of power. So that's always when you look for the troubleshooting through Ledger, it's all right, well, unplug it, plug it back in, try a different plug, try a different cable.
Can you imagine these things, the 400 by 800 pixel screen, and then you're gonna have similar Ledger problems potentially, and then you have to touch screen everything. That could.
Well, you're less likely to, because you don't have all those layers underneath that are so variable up to the user, right? And in respect to that, all of those things are tamperable.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this is you just send package of the internet on your local area network, which is arguably tamperable. But once it's on this thing and it gets the signal, what it's displaying to you cannot be wrong. What it gets is what it's going to show you. And so when you do that verification process of yes, this is the transaction I want to sign. These are the details of that smart contract that I asked it to sign. Good, I'll confirm it. And what you sign then gets sent back to wherever you asked it from, say my computer on MetaMask. And that can't be tamperable either because it's a digitally signed message.
I would like to know how your experience goes with it when you power it on and use it for a few months.
Probably do it live.
Okay.
I'll set it up, try it out, and then we'll do this again some other time to show it. This is, in my opinion, probably the current state of the art with incredibly high security using blockchain.
For sure, high security and state of the art, but in terms of user approachability,
that's to be determined.
Yeah.
I think
I'm not taking this anywhere, right?
Crypto has elephants in the room, or skeletons in the closet, or dirt under the rug, whatever random analogy you want to use for stuff that crypto doesn't want to talk about because it's insurmountably difficult to fix. And it's the user experience is so bad with crypto, no matter how.
Yeah, of course it is.
Let me jack up the security. Now it's not even user friendly anymore.
Yeah, well, when I had somebody, I was hoping something to their ledger, and they were like, "What the fuck is a derivation path?" And me, at the time, I finessed danced out of that question harder than I could possibly imagine, because I was like, "It's how we derive." And then
I don't know. You can say I don't know. It's okay to not know shit.
It's okay to be in the ballpark too. I said it's a path of derivation, and he said, "Okay." So then I went back and looked it up, and I was like, "Oh, I guess that makes sense." But if I'm a GPP, I'm derivation. What?
So what happens? What happens with hardware wallets is, because they have limited storage, more often than not, what they do is they only store the master key. So your seed phrase, depending upon how long it is, gets stretched to a 512 byte seed, which is just a random string, which is basically a number, right? Yeah. That is usually what gets stored. Or there's a little bit more process than how that seed actually gets used to make a private key. But those initial private keys are usually what gets stored on a hardware wallet. Because what it can do is, from that key pair or seed, or master key pair, it can just derive whatever private and public key you need on the fly. It doesn't need to store them. And depending upon how much computational power it has, it may want to store some of them so that it's faster, because that's extra computation it has to do. But for something like this, it's just all right, give me the key path, or give me the derivation path. What network am I using? Is it mainnet, etc.? Okay, this is the right key for that type of thing. And now I'll sign whatever I need to.
Excuse me. I'm just so
That's
happy
all stuff
about...
that you shouldn't have to care about. Nobody should have to care about that, other than people like me and wallet designers.
I'm happy about my personal future, that I have a little bit deeper understanding than like 90% of the population, so that when it comes to time this stuff does hit mainstream hardcore, man, be printing money doing something. I don't know what it's going to be, but nobody's going to need to know all this stuff. So
Yeah, I think a lot of this is that crypto forced people to get comfortable or get used to using like key pairs and cryptography, asymmetric key pairs, right? And that's not easy. And like the user experience of that isn't easy. And eventually, like we've come up with like interesting ways to try to do it. Like more often than not, like these things are key pairs. It's like this is just a proxy for all that bullshit. It does it here. You just tap it, and your credit card does something similar, mostly for certificates. But like it's a similar type of thing. Like a lot of cryptography is going on when you make a credit card purchase and you insert your PIN or tap it with an NFC. Just a slightly different kind of cryptography in order to verify that your card is yours. We're trying to figure out ways to give you that same user experience without compromising your security, using it like a different kind of cryptography.
Yeah, it's dope. I hope it takes off. We need it to take off for crypto's sake. The user experience has to get better, like point blank, period. So, I want to see the next episode when you like spark it up and then accidentally leak all your personal information, and then
100% live.
Spark that shit up so we can see what it looks like. I think we've made a mistake. What is going on? What just happened?
Alicia made herself an overlay.
I'm